There's a part of you you've never met. It doesn't show up in your selfies. It doesn't speak in your voice, but it decides what you do, who you love, and why you keep running in circles. It's the reason you start projects you never finish. It's why you keep dating people who hurt you. It's why, even when everything's going well, you feel the urge to burn it all down. We call it self-sabotage. But what if I told you it's not a flaw? It's a philosophy, a hidden one you live by without even knowing it. And today we're going to expose it. Most people think self-sabotage is irrational. They ask, why would I ruin something I've worked so hard for? But the truth is, you never destroy anything that doesn't feel safe or broken. Think about that. That dream you gave up on? Maybe it wasn't the fear of failure. It was the fear of being seen succeeding. Because success demands identity. And most people have no idea who they really are. Nietzsche once said, "Man would rather will nothingness than not will at all." In other words, we would rather choose our own destruction than live in a world where we feel powerless. Self-sabotage isn't about being weak. It's about trying to take control of pain. In 1943, the German theologian Dietrich Bonhoeffer sat in a Nazi prison. He wasn't there for violence. He was there for asking dangerous questions, and one of them was this: stupidity is a more dangerous enemy of the good than evil. He argued that stupidity isn't about intelligence. It's about surrender. When people give up thinking for themselves, when they trade reflection for comfort, they become passive instruments of destruction. Here's the twist. Self-sabotage is a kind of internal stupidity. It's what happens when you let your fears do the thinking for you. Fears like, I'm not enough. People will leave if I succeed. If I try and fail, it will confirm what I've always feared. So instead, you don't try. Or worse, you try just enough to say you did, but not enough to risk transformation. Let's go deeper. What if self-sabotage is rooted in the very thing we chase the most? Identity. Philosopher Alan Watts once said, "Trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth." Yet we all chase a version of ourselves that's finished, solid, certain. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The you think you are is just a story, a collage of memories, trauma, conditioning, and cultural feedback loops. Plato warned us about this in the allegory of the cave. He described prisoners chained in a dark cavern, mistaking shadows on the wall for reality. Most people never leave the cave, and even if they do, the light of truth burns. Self-sabotage, then, is often the soul retreating back into the shadows, back to the familiar pain. Because freedom demands responsibility, and responsibility is terrifying. Machiavelli wrote The Prince not as a guide for monsters, but as a mirror for society. He believed people crave stability more than truth, that most would trade their integrity for comfort if pressured just enough. Apply that inward. You've likely betrayed yourself 1,000 small times just to avoid discomfort. Saying yes when you meant no, staying silent when you should have spoken, keeping the peace while a war raged inside you. You did it to survive. But survival strategies become self-sabotage when the threat is no longer real. You've built walls you no longer need. But instead of tearing them down, you keep decorating them, calling it growth. Here's a hard pill. Many people don't fear pain. They fear new pain. There's a strange comfort in familiar suffering. The same arguments, the same heartbreaks, the same patterns. It's like returning to a prison cell, because at least you know where everything is. This is known in psychology as homeostasis. The mind seeks balance, even if that balance is toxic. If you've always felt unloved, chaos becomes home. If you've always felt overlooked, invisibility becomes safe. So when someone offers love, or opportunity, or peace, you flinch. Because it doesn't match the story you believe about yourself. So how do you stop sabotaging your life? Not by willpower, not by productivity hacks, but by honestly confronting who you've become and why. You need to ask, who benefits from me staying small? What fear am I protecting by failing? What part of me is afraid to heal? Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Self-sabotage isn't fate, it's a pattern. And patterns can be rewritten. if you're willing to face the shadow. Here's where most philosophy channels stop. They give you insight, maybe a quote to chew on. But I won't leave you there, because real transformation is messy. You don't just wake up one day and stop sabotaging your life. You unlearn, you grieve, you sit with guilt, regret, and the wreckage of choices made from fear. And then slowly, you rebuild. Not from perfection, but from presence. You stop asking, what's wrong with me? And start asking, what have I been afraid to feel? Because when you feel it fully, you free it. This channel is called Second Origins for a reason. It's the belief that no matter how lost you feel, no matter how many versions of yourself you've had to shed, you're allowed to begin again, not with a new mask, but with a new awareness. Bonhoeffer faced execution for believing in truth during mass delusion. Nietzsche died in madness after seeing through society's illusions. Plato gave us shadows, Machiavelli gave us mirrors. Now it's your turn. Look honestly, think dangerously, feel deeply, because maybe your second origin isn't something you find. Maybe it's something you choose. If this stirred something in you, don't let it fade. Subscribe to Second Origins and join a growing community of minds brave enough to think beyond the surface. This is more than content. It's a conversation with your soul.